impotency.
Absolutely. You can get erectile dysfunction with COVID. Now, I want my men folks to go ahead and balance that risk benefit ratio 100%.
That's why I got vaccinated, people.
That's the one reason. Never mind all the other reasons I just mentioned.
I was like, the hell with the other ones. Just give me this vaccine as soon as possible, because we cannot have that happen. I'm trying to be safe, people. I'm just not delivering. All right. Let's go back to the Black folks dealing with the vaccine. I also heard that Morehouse School of Medicine was involved in this.
Oh, yes. Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice, the president of Morehouse School of Medicine, was very, very strongly involved and on different committees and advisory boards. And she has been very vocal about just following the science, following the facts. It's true.
We had a special vaccination show last Thursday, and it was a good show. At least if you're gonna make a decision because you talk to people who know. And if you reject it, at least you rejected the best information that was out there. Now, how you reconcile that is up to you. Everybody watching, Dr. Frita just told us, she gave us the names and the receipts, people. Black people were involved in the development of this vaccine. And these are Black folks dealing with the Morehouse School of Medicine. And if you think Morehouse, the school that produced Benjamin Elijah Mays, Martin Luther King, Spike Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, is going to be involved in killing Black people, and you don't know anything about Morehouse or HBCUs. So
there's another school involved, Meharry Medical College, my alma mater. Our president, Dr. Hildreth, also has sat on the FDA advisory board. So another historically Black college and university, Meharry Medical College. Black scientists are in the room where the decisions are being made.
Receipts. We'll be back. Welcome back, everybody. So you mentioned something during the break because we were talking, and you mentioned that I'm going to quote you that it's not ignorant people who have questions. You said it's thinking people.
Yes, a lot of my medical colleagues get frustrated because we know how much these vaccines help, how much they can save lives, and sometimes they think it's just ignorant people who don't want the vaccine, but that is not the case. It is the informed, critical thinkers who really want to take their time and to analyze. And so I don't insult people who have not made up their mind, who are wanting to stop, to collect facts, to gather facts. These are the ones who are critical thinkers and who are intelligent people. What I do is I provide them with the answers to their questions. I give them the evidence. I give them the facts. And I'm honest because the vaccines are new, specifically to the COVID-19 virus. And so there are some things that are going to be unknown, like 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. And so I give the facts, I support them with the evidence, and then allow my critical thinkers to make their decision because the choice is theirs.
Yeah, I love that. But here's my pushback, because I'm all for questions. I'm not for people who have answers without any consideration of what the questions really are. That I'm not for. And I've encountered far too many people who've drawn conclusions on the basis of the skeletal bones of an emaciated chicken in a lost pot. It's like, where did you get that from? And that's why we're doing this show. So let's talk about Johnson & Johnson, right? Because the blood clots, and there's a lot of skepticism, and let me admit, I got a little skepticism with Johnson & Johnson as well, until I heard that it's like a 1 in a million chance of this happening. And until I heard, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that you stand a better chance at getting blood clots from birth control medication than you do from the COVID vaccine. Did I get that right?
You got that 100% right. With that Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and it was a big setback because we in the medical community really thought, we're just getting over some of this vaccine hesitancy. We're getting more vaccine acceptance. Now here we go. We have to pause the vaccine. So what happened with that Johnson & Johnson specifically, they found that 6 women between the ages of 18 and 48 had this rare blood clot after taking the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And we still don't know if it's a cause and effect, but at very least there was a correlation. Well, at that time, there were about 7 million doses that had been given, which made it a 1 in a million chance, even if it was a cause and effect. But you got it just right. There's a greater chance at getting a blood clot if you're pregnant, if you fly on a plane, if you take birth control pills. And there's definitely a greater risk of getting a blood clot if you get the COVID-19.
I was just about to say that. I was waiting for you to stop so I could just jump in with my little knowledge and say, there's a greater chance of getting a blood clot if you get COVID. So if you get COVID, you stand a better chance of getting a blood clot and dying.
Exactly.
Then if you get this vaccine. Let me ask you this. Weigh for me the vulnerabilities, comparatively speaking, the vulnerabilities between getting vaccinated and having COVID.
All right. So getting vaccinated, we have looked at the side effect profiles through and through, and the CDC still has websites where we're asking people to give us more side effects, anything that you have, any symptom that you feel is associated. And thus far, we're finding that the vaccines are safe. You may get a fast heart rate. You may get some chills. You may get headache. You may and very likely will get pain at the arm at the site of the injection. And some people really feel flu-like they got hit by a bus within the first 24 hours. But these symptoms go away. And these symptoms, if you weigh the risks and the benefits of symptoms that go away versus getting the COVID-19 virus, there's no comparison. We already know that well over 500,000 people in the US alone have died from the virus. We know that at first we thought that there were over 30 million cases, but now as people donate blood and we're testing antibodies, we see that it's between 3 and 4 times as much people who've actually had COVID-19. And if you've had COVID-19, even if you got over it and you did okay and you don't have a lot of symptoms, you still have a potential risk of being a long hauler, having those long-term effects where you can get the neurological problems. There's a study that shows that 30% of the long haulers, people with long COVID, have neurological problems. They can get anxiety, depression, even some physical neurologic deficits. And you can have fast heart rate. You can get blood clots. There's so many things.
Dr. Frita, I got one. I talked to a doctor friend of mine, and he said, he was on the show. He said, one of the things that can happen if you get COVID, this is for all the men and for all the women who love men, is impotency.
Absolutely. You can get erectile dysfunction with COVID. Now, I want my men folks to go ahead and balance that risk benefit ratio 100%.
That's why I got vaccinated, people.
That's the one reason. Never mind all the other reasons I just mentioned.
I was like, the hell with the other ones. Just give me this vaccine as soon as possible, because we cannot have that happen. I'm trying to be safe, people. I'm just not delivering. All right. So let me ask you this. Talk to me about race and medicine in this country, because we do need to account for the fact that none of these conspiracy theories would be credible or credibly believed if there was not an actual history.
It's true. And, we can just start with the Tuskegee experiment, even though we know that there are probably so many other forms of medical mistreatment in the Black community. This is just the more famous one, where you had these men, these sharecroppers who were Black men who were trusting of the science, who had syphilis, and they thought that they were a part of science, making history, and that they were getting treated. And the medical community, the folks who were over this trial, sat there and just documented all of the symptoms of syphilis in these Black men. And even when a cure was developed for syphilis, they did not give it to them. They sat there from the 1940s all the way into the 1970s and denied treatment, even once it was available. And
Dr. Fried, hold on one second, because that distinction is important, because with the Tuskegee experiment, it was the denial of a cure that constituted the conspiracy or the evil, not the giving of a vaccine that constituted the evil. So it's not apples for apples. It's evil in the way you look at it. That everybody would agree with. But people need to be very careful that we don't try to, completely correlate these two moments we find ourselves in. Because with Tuskegee, they were not given a cure that was available. With COVID-19, there is a cure available, and people are afraid to take it.
That's it. But it's funny, though. Well, it's not funny at all. But when you speaking about correlations, people are afraid to take vaccines when it comes to COVID-19 But all of our lives, we've been taking vaccines. We've been taking.
No, wait. Bing, 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 bing. I got to do a bing, bing on you right there because I'm going to let you finish. But you're absolutely right, Dr. Frita. Please keep talking. I should let you talk. Go ahead.
And the reason that we don't have an appreciation for vaccines is because they work so well. Why aren't people afraid of the boogeyman? Well, they've never seen him. Why aren't people afraid of some of the diseases that the vaccines have eradicated? Well, they've never seen them. Take a look at smallpox. Well, you can't because it's been eradicated. Back when smallpox was in existence, it killed 80% of the children it infected. Measles murdered children. It killed people. Polio infected and paralyzed children. It even got the president, FDR. You have so many illnesses that killed or caused disability before we got vaccinations. But now you have people who say, oh no, I'm healthy and I don't vaccinate my kids and we never get sick. I say to those people, and I got this from my sister, you're welcome. The reason you don't get sick with polio, the reason you don't get sick with measles, the reason you don't get sick with mumps is because everyone in your herd, in your community around you has been vaccinated. And so we don't have the diseases to give to you. We are protecting you through herd immunity. So please don't think you have a superhuman immunity. It's the vaccines that are keeping us away from these diseases, which in many cases no longer exist in the United States.
Listen, if I could give you a standing ovation and still be in my camera frame, I would do it. So I'll give you a sitting ovation. In my spirit, I'm standing and I'm applauding because that needs to get said over and over and over and over again. Look, what about mask, right? I'm gonna be honest with you, Dr. Frita. It'll be 2026 before I take my mask off.
Oh dear. Maybe 2025, 2024?
No, 2026. So am I crazy? Should I take it off? Should I leave? What should I? I'm asking for the audience because I know what I'm going to do.
All right. Well, so if you are fully vaccinated, meaning it's been at least 2 weeks after your second dose of Pfizer or Moderna, or 2 weeks after the one and done dose of the Johnson & Johnson, you are considered to be fully vaccinated. And according to CDC recommendations, you are able to take your masks off, even indoors, when you are with other people who are known to be fully vaccinated. You can take the masks off. You don't have to physically distance. You can be inside if everyone is fully vaccinated and no one is at high risk. Also, if you are fully vaccinated, you can even go to one household of unvaccinated people as long as no one is at high risk for severe complications. In other words, those grandparents who have been missing their grandchildren, once they got fully vaccinated, they're able to travel, even if the kids or if their children are unvaccinated, if it's one household and everyone is low risk. And now the CDC has released more recommendations that when you are outside, if you are outside reasonably spaced, you don't have to wear the masks if you're vaccinated. And we've been talking about a 2 out of 3 rule. Outdoors, masks, physically distance. If you are physically distanced and you're outside, you don't need a mask. If you are outdoors and you are not physically distanced, then you do need a mask. So if you're at a concert and everyone's shoulder to shoulder, even if you're outside, it's still recommended that you wear a mask. These recommendations get complicated because we also have science coming out saying that if you've been vaccinated, there is a very, 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 very low minuscule chance of you even transmitting the virus indoors, much less outside. And so there's been a lot of pushback saying, come on, let the kids play sports outside with no masks. But then you still have those scenarios. If you have children who are in tight sports and they're on top of each other, if they're wrestling, if they're chasing a ball, is there a possibility that they could spread it with no masks? There's always that chance, even though it's very low. So we're still kind of wrestling, and this is going to be a dynamic situation.
Yeah, it's fluid, it's active. We're living in the moment. I got to go, but I want to thank you for all of this tonight. And I want to thank you for how you ended, because how you ended is how I was hoping we would end this conversation. And that is laying out all the benefits that come along with being vaccinated. And I want people to really have a sense of the fact that we can come back into some sense of owning and reclaiming our lives if we are vaccinated. And so I'm not telling anybody what to do. You do what you want to do. I'm just telling you what you should do. How about that? Thank you, Dr. Frita Fisher.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed myself.
Listen, you got to come back. When you come back, what I want to ask you is, what do you see coming up next? Because nobody predicted COVID. Does anybody see anything else coming?
I will bring my crystal ball and I will come back. Absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's take a break, people.